So I turned 30 at the end of this month, and I have been reflecting a lot on this big birthday coming up the last year or so. I feel like I've just really changed and grown a lot in the last decade. And about 6 months ago, I actually started writing a notes thing in my phone with things I have learned in my 20s. Because I feel like going into 30, I'm just much more confident and secure with who I am as a person. And I wish someone would have told me these things when I was 20 years old. I don't know if I would have listened, but maybe there's some 20-something-year-olds out there that can resonate with some of these things, and maybe it'll be helpful. So I'm gonna do my makeup, and I'm going to share a couple things with you that I learned in my 20s. Oh, gotta take this off. Okay, first things first is confidence is sexy. I think when you're younger, you think you need to look a certain way or act a certain way in order to be confident in who you are. But when it comes down to it, what's attractive is your confidence and security with who you are as a person. It's so important to be confident in who you are right now. You don't need to be anything else for anybody but yourself. And I think if you are just true to who you are, you will naturally attract to the friendships or relationships that are truly meaningful and important. And speaking of relationships, my next thing that I've learned is that relationships ebb and flow. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I have been married for 10 years this coming year. I got married super young. And I'm not just talking about marriages ebb and flow, but every relationship, friendships, your relationships with your parents, with your coworkers. I went through so many life changes in my 20s. I've had 2 kids. I became a nurse. I have moved. I've bought homes. I've started a business. And through all those different changes I've had my relationships change as well. And I think a lot of times when a relationship starts to kind of fizzle out or fizzle down, or maybe there's something kind of, going wonky in it, we immediately think, oh my gosh, this is over. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's over. It's just going through the changes the same way that you are. And sometimes a relationship door might close, but usually that's because there's something greater coming. The next thing I've learned is that somebody else's success does not negate your own. And what I mean by that is if you're looking at other people and you're like, oh my gosh, they're so successful, why can't I be that way? You can. We need to get out of this comparison game and jealousy game of the people around you. If they're being more successful than you are, that's great for them. Be excited for them. That doesn't mean that your successes are any less. The next thing I've learned is that people literally have opinions about everything. And if you decide to have kids in your 20s, this seems to just exacerbate even more. But there are so many right ways to do things, and you may be doing something differently than somebody else, and that's okay. And maybe I've just learned this because I've been on social media for a long time, but people like to just tell me their unnecessary opinions, and kind of comes with the territory of the job. But when it comes down to it, just because someone doesn't believe in something that you are doing or that you believe in doesn't mean you're wrong. It doesn't mean that they're wrong either. I think a lot of people think that relationships or opinions need to be black and white. If this person doesn't believe in this, I can't be their friend. And I think there's so much more to people than just the things that they believe in. I think that we can all learn to get along and connect on a different level, even if we don't agree on the same things. The next thing I actually learned in therapy not too long ago, but my therapist taught me about something called mirroring. I've never used this blush before, so I'm hoping this isn't too much. She essentially said, when you're looking at the relationships in your life, and if you feel like you are giving more to somebody than what they are giving you, mirror whatever they're giving you. And I think this doesn't apply to everything, right? Sometimes in, long relationships or marriages, there's going to be a time where you're giving more because your partner needs it, and there's going to be a time where your partner's giving more because maybe you need that. But overall, are you receiving as much as you're giving? I think I actually need a little more. If you find that you're putting so much effort into a relationship and the person is not filling your cup up the same way that you're trying to fill theirs, it might be time to reevaluate. The next thing that I have learned is to be very grateful for the little things in life. And I know this sounds cheesy, but I'm talking about literally just being grateful and having gratitude for all the small things. So lighting a candle while you're doing dishes, listening to my kids play while I'm cooking dinner, the smell of dinner in my house, putting on lotion before I put my pajamas on and crawl into bed, just being thankful for all of those small little things has just given me such a better perspective on life. I feel like we can kind of always want the next biggest thing or best thing, or we want, a bigger house or a better car, or better clothes, or, name brand this, name brand that. I'm not shaming people who like those things, because it's great to have goals and aspirations and get things that fill you up and make you happy. But I think if you're not in that phase of life where you are able to buy a nicer home or a nicer car, it can sometimes make you feel like you're not doing well enough, which is far from the truth. So instead of focusing on those big things that we're grateful for, like of course we're thankful for our jobs and our kids and our family and all that, focusing on the small things that we have all throughout our days that we can truly be grateful for. And the last thing I want to talk about is just taking care of yourself. And I know this sounds so cheesy, and when you're into your 20s, you don't necessarily think about, maybe eating as well or exercising or all those things. The best person you can take care of is you. As you get older, I feel like life just gets harder in a lot of ways. You tend to have more responsibilities, kids, marriages, jobs, all those big boy, big girl responsibilities. And it can be very stressful. And you will never regret taking care of your physical health, your mental health, whether that's, just being a little more active, going to therapy. If you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be able to not only continue to take care of yourself, but help those around you. Okay, those are some things I've learned in my 20s. Let me know if you resonate with any of them, and let me know if you've learned anything in your 20s that you want to pass along to, the future generations. Bye, guys.